Hello YouTube. Today I am working on my computer. Actually, I shouldn't say today. This has been a week-long process. Actually, it's been more like a year-long process. If anybody remembers the video that I had about getting a new computer about 5 years ago, it was a Sterling portable, well, luggable style of computer. Well, I can't remember the exact specifications on it, but it was a i7. I had upgraded it with a 6 terabyte hard drive. I think I had 64 gigs of RAM in it. Unfortunately, it was not certified for Windows 7. Did I just say Windows 7? Windows 11. Anyway, I had been holding off on upgrading it because I wanted to keep using the cameras that I have, and I use mini DV tapes primarily, but from my understanding, Windows 11 wouldn't support the hardware needed to transfer the mini DV data from the camera. So that was part of the reason why I upgraded. The second part of the reason why I upgraded was I wanted to get into a more professional type of editing software. I was using AVS Video Editor, which I had paid for. I mean, it did what I needed it to do. So I decided to go with DaVinci Pro. Well, DaVinci wouldn't run on my computer. On paper, it should have. It was completely capable of running the software. I had upgraded the video card previously, and it just wouldn't run. It would say that there was no compatible video card installed. I couldn't figure it out. People on the forum couldn't figure it out. So I upgraded. And there were some issues. The display on the unit. It's a 17-inch LCD display, and the controller is sitting here on the table. It is not unlike one of these things here, which this is going to be a little weird, but yeah, you're seeing yourself. I've got a little monitor display, but it's kind of one of these all-in-one controllers. It has VGA, DVI, and HDMI input capabilities, it has audio input, audio output, it has an amplifier on it, and so on. The issue when I upgraded my video card is this computer, the original video card that was in it, had a DVI connector on it. New video card did not have a DVI connector. It had DisplayPort and HDMI. So I did one of these things, and this is the cable that was originally on it, and had this contraption hanging out the side of the computer, which if I wanted to use it as a portable, close it all up and everything, I'd have to take this adapter off and tuck it in the side, and it was a pain. So tore it apart, and I decided I was going to put an HDMI jack on it, or connect it up with HDMI, because I had never had the display apart before. But going through the display options, there was the option for HDMI input. Figured, okay, that'll be easy, just swap out cables. It's never easy. So as you can see, this cable connects to a pin header instead of a DVI connection, which a DVI connection is fairly bulky, so that's completely understandable. But if you look at this board here, let's zoom in, this is the board, and it didn't have that jack there. So I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to try to solder it. And I bought a hot air soldering station, the cheapest one I could possibly find. It's a knockoff of a knockoff. It doesn't even have a brand on it. It just says, what is it? 8898 is the only thing it says on it. And it actually works quite well, all things considered. But I did not have luck with this. First of all, I decided I was going to try to use solder paste. Spread it on the connectors, heat it up, and I got a fairly low melting point solder paste, and it's a tin lead alloy. It doesn't melt. So after trying that, I lost one connector, and I only broke one trace. Well, one needed trace anyway. See if we can see this here. So there we go. Doesn't look too bad. There's one trace missing right there. That is not connected anyway, so I had to put a bodge wire on it. Have not tested it yet. Second go around went a little bit better. I just did it by hand with the soldering iron. So let's go ahead and get this mounted back in the case and see if it works. Now for the display itself. The other thing I added, if you saw those two blue wires going across, was a USB 3 front panel connection, because it originally only had these two USB ports right here. It obviously has USB 3, has 6 USB 3 ports on the side. I wanted a couple on the front, so that's the only, I wish I could have found something like this that's a circuit board mount, but I couldn't, so I used this, and I have to modify the front of the case a little bit for that to clear. And first we'll see if the display works, and then we'll test the USB port. Okay, power's on. Let's see what happens. Nothing. Well, the next video might be trying to fit another display into this. Well, there's your problem. The connector came off the LCD. I hope it's a connector. Yeah, it's a connector. Doesn't even lock in. Well, that's why it came out. Explains why the tape's there. I'm gonna have to find some better tape or something. Or hot glue it on or something, I guess. Surprised that wasn't what they did, because all the other connectors were hot glued for like the DVI connection and the power and audio. Now let's see what happens. It's working. There's static. Not sure if that's showing up on the camera or not. But there's kind of like snow in the background. Oh, I think I found it. Yep. What was it? I touched something in it. Oh. The connector wasn't in all the way. Okay. Well, that's working. Let's hook up a drive to the USB 3, and we'll see if that's working. The only reason why I think it might not work is because I kind of hacked the cable up to make it fit in the case. So, reboot and select proper boot device. It's not even showing up. Okay, let's try the other port. That's working. So I think I must have damaged the cable. Crap. All right, well. Now it's working. I think. Kernel panic. That's good. Maybe it's not working. Display is working. Display is working well. I mean, we're not at full resolution. This is an HD display, 1080p display on here. But as you can sort of see. So Anyway, that's it for now. Okay, so I managed to get the USB sorted out. The USB 3 anyway. Well, that was the only USB I was having trouble with. So anyway, if you can see there, this PCB that I have it mounted on, well, first of all, like I had said, I couldn't find a PCB mounted USB connector anywhere. But I did manage to find one that was the stacked like I was looking for, and it had flat cables, not ribbon cables, but they're, you can kind of see them in the back there. You can see them kind of right there above the speaker. But it's the flat cables. This connector was, it of course had the plastic covering on it like every connector you can find does. But this particular one had PCB mounts on the bottom of it. So I carefully took the plastic casing off of it, and this PCB that is here was back in there. I don't know if it was seen previously or not, but it was back in there, and all I did was I removed it. It had two connectors on it, which they were labeled keyboard mouse, and it was just a pass-through. Like one cable would plug into it and another cable would plug into it. So my guess would be it was kind of an extension. I don't know. But it wasn't in use, so I took it out, removed the connectors from it, drilled a couple new holes in it, mounted the USB connector on it, put it on some standoffs to push it out from the side a little bit, and there we go. As far as the face goes, there we go. I now have front panel USB 3 connectors. Ironically, that is not the reason I have made this video. The reason that I was originally making this video is because the keyboard doesn't work all the time. Sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't. And let me put the camera back in the stand, get the computer out of the way, and we'll take a look at the keyboard. This is the keyboard from the Sterling computer. It doesn't always work. So we're going to try to fix it. So the way this thing works, or doesn't work, is that it plugs into the computer with this cable here. This cable would have gone inside the PC. It is essentially, I don't know if you can make that out or not, but it's a serial cable. Mini, like a Macintosh style serial cable. This end of the cable here plugged into the USB ports internally, and this little pigtail comes out of the keyboard, so you could detach it completely. Well, I'm assuming it's that the cable connection is bad, because when you'd wiggle it around, sometimes it would work, sometimes it wouldn't work. The trackpad worked all the time, or did it? It's been over a year since I last tried using this keyboard. What my plan is to just make it into a USB keyboard, because that's what it is. Why they didn't do that from the get-go, who knows? Let's get into it, see what we got, and we'll see what we're gonna do as I knock everything over off to the side. There's about 40 screws on this thing, and that's the trackpad module, which we'll get to that later. And this is the keyboard. So we've got 5 connections here, and they're labeled VCC, which would be 5 volts, shield, ground, D+, D-. What I am going to do is I have this little USB splitter board and some micro USB connectors. Those we're going to have to connect together. Then we're going to connect these onto, and I have this cable here, which, I mean, it's fairly stretchy. So this is going to be our new USB cable. We'll start by removing this cable. See, these are the connections here that I think are the problem, because they're not very secure. The keyboard connection is labeled. The connector on the touchpad is not labeled, so we'll get to that in a minute. Let's get the keyboard out of the way. We'll get the board prepared first. Those just snap apart like that. This one here, the micro, has ground, I/O, D plus, D minus, and 5 volts. So I'm just going to use a pin header here, and we're going to remove one pin. And the spacing on here is such that we can go 5 volts, D plus, D minus, I/O will be here, which won't be connected, and ground will be here, which will be to the shield. Let me just make sure that that is correct. Yes. Again, apologize about the lighting. It's crooked. It doesn't matter. Just these things are tougher than I thought. Because the snips are bent. Thought I could get by using the crappy ones. Guess not. Just going to screw this little board in here. Okay. Tuck that out of the way. Plug that in. It hits the standoff on the other side. I don't recommend doing this, but it's 1:30 in the morning and I really don't feel like trying to do something else. But on a positive note, that should keep the USB cable from pulling out. That snaps in there. And there we we have it, complete, outside of putting 40 screws back in. Okay, so we're going to wrap things up with this Sterling computer, and I'll just go over what I did to it and the specifications on it. So I am currently outside because, well, there's light out here. So looking around the computer itself, this is a portable computer, as you can tell. And we'll get it out of the sunlight, direct sunlight anyway, and I'll go over the modifications that I've done to it. Okay, so this still has the original power supply in it that was in here when I got it. This has just a laptop style, low profile DVD rewritable drive in it. This next to it is a carrier that you can put a 2.5-inch laptop SATA hard drive in, and that is removable. On the other side, this door opens up, and that is removable to reveal the original Windows 10 sticker. Going from the top down, we have a FireWire card, USB 3 connection, a serial port, the video card, and then the motherboard. This was originally a 5.25-inch drive bay, which I deleted and have this in here instead. It's a 3D printed duct because the CPU cooler wouldn't fit otherwise. This connection here is just a 12-volt power out that goes to, I have the desk that I have this in is an enclosed desk, and I have a fan on the side of the desk, and then this plugs into that. This is the HDMI cable that comes from the internal monitor, so that can be disconnected and reconnected as needed. Wi-Fi connections and the rest of the standard motherboard stuff. RJ45 for network, audio input, output. I removed the audio cable because it's not needed with HDMI. The onboard graphics are not enabled. The processor that I got does not have the onboard graphics. We already saw the front of it where I did the USB 3 mod to the front of the case and the keyboard mod to convert it to standard USB. And if you saw when I opened it up, the way that the keyboard is made, if anything is connected to these two USB ports over here, the cables can come out either the side or the front down at the bottom here. And the location of the USB 3 connectors that I put in allows me to keep the keyboard connected even when it's closed, if it is plugged into the left side port. Okay, so this is the inside of the computer. This was one of those situations where nothing would fit properly, just the way it's laid out. Everything is kind of crammed in as tight as it could possibly be. So The motherboard is a Gigabyte 7790 UD-AC. It's an ultra durable motherboard, which is the same family of motherboards that was in here originally. I have an i9 12900 KF, and again, that doesn't have the onboard video. I didn't need it. No sense in having it. I have the video that I have is a NVIDIA GeForce RTX 4070. So it's the smaller version, and I got that because the larger version I was afraid wouldn't fit. This originally had a card cage support off here on the side, which I removed because the only thing it really accomplished was to block airflow from the fan. Again, right here, there was a cage to mount a 5¼ inch drive. That is no longer there. Underneath this shroud is the CPU cooler, which is a Noctua NH-U9S, and two NFA9 fans, one on the front here, one on the back here. The one on the back is actually mounted up a little bit higher, which is why that gap is there on the shroud. The hard drive is, well, the main hard drive now is a 4 GB SSD, kind of just a generic one. I can't remember the name of it offhand, Edlaka or something like that. The secondary hard drive, which was originally the primary hard drive, is a Western Digital 6 terabyte UltraStar drive, data center hard drive. 64 gigabytes of RAM. I don't recall offhand the brand that I purchased. The case fans is Noctua NFA 4x20, this little tiny one down here in the corner, and I have two of the NFP12s here as case fans. There's one intake right here, and there's an exhaust there on the back of the case. So that's it. Like I said, the power supply is the one that was in here originally. I'm currently running Debian 13 on it. Squirrels. So as I had said, this is a Sterling branded computer. The original model number was WSXGA-17.3. 17.3 inch full HD display. This is kind of a generic case. There's no branding on it whatsoever other than that little sticker there on the back of the keyboard. I believe all the components were off-the-shelf components. I have seen other portable computers that have this style of display control. However, those are usually 4x3 models, and they're not widescreen models, and the display controls are on the side of the case. So whether or not those are in the same case or not, I'm not sure. There we go. Thanks for watching.